All right, let's get right into it. Deep in the heart of Silicon Valley, there's this company that's, well, it's pretty much breaking every single rule of capitalism. We're talking about OpenAI, and it might just be the most important and definitely the weirdest corporate experiment happening in the world right now.
So get this, at the very moment AI is projected to create, trillions of dollars of wealth, OpenAI has decided to put a legal cap on its own profits, on purpose. From a business point of view, that sounds completely nuts, right?
And that's the big question, the central mystery we're going to unpack here. The answer, it turns out, involves a really deep-seated fear, a totally radical new kind of company, and, no joke, a battle for the future of humanity.
To really get OpenAI, you first have to wrap your head around this core paradox. It was basically built to solve a problem that it is now, it's now creating at full speed.
So how in the world did we get here? See, to understand this paradox, you got to go back to the very beginning. OpenAI's bizarre structure, it's not really a business plan, it's more like a defense mechanism, and it was born from a profound fear of the very technology they're building. So back in 2015, the founders, they looked at giants like Google, and they saw this future where a godlike AI could be controlled by, quarterly earnings reports, and they thought that is a recipe for absolute disaster. So, their mission from day one was to create a nonprofit to build AGI safely out in the open for everybody.
But they very quickly hit a massive wall. Turns out, training these huge AI models takes billions with a B of dollars in computing power. That's cash a nonprofit running on donations just could not raise. They were about to lose the race before it even really started.
So they were completely stuck. They needed billions, but the nonprofit model couldn't get it for them. So, to stay true to their mission while also getting the money they needed to survive, they had to invent something totally new. A crazy compromise between their ideals and the harsh reality of the tech arms race.
And this is what they came up with, a unique hybrid they call a capped profit company. Now, this thing can take billions from investors, sure, but it's ultimately controlled by the original nonprofit mission. And here's the kicker. There is a hard legal limit on how much money those investors can ever get back. For those very first investors, the cap was set at 100 times their initial investment. Now look, 100-to-1 return sounds amazing, right? But for a technology that could one day be worth more than entire countries, it's actually a huge restriction. Any profit that goes above that cap, it just flows right back to the nonprofit to, benefit humanity. But honestly, the most radical part of this whole setup isn't really about the money. It's about power. In any normal company, the board has a legal duty, a fiduciary duty, to make as much money as possible for shareholders, period. At OpenAI, the board's legal duty is to the mission, the safe development of AGI for all of humanity.
So what does that actually mean? It means the board basically has a legal kill switch. They can, in the name of safety, completely destroy shareholder value, shut down a super profitable product, fire the CEO without asking investors, and even tell their biggest partner, Microsoft, that their $13 billion investment doesn't give them a say. Wild.
Okay, but this was all just a theory, right? A complex legal idea on paper. So how did this whole thing hold up when it finally slammed into the real world? Well, in late 2023, the entire structure got put to the ultimate test.
The board did exactly what the rulebook said it could do. They fired CEO Sam Altman because they were worried he was pushing for growth way too fast, putting the mission at risk. But the business side, it fought back, hard. Microsoft was furious, the employees threatened to walk out, and the whole thing was reversed in this chaotic, very public meltdown. What that whole fiasco proved was that this wasn't just some theoretical conflict anymore. The very structure that was designed to protect humanity nearly tore the company apart, and it exposed this deep, explosive crack right at its core, the mission versus the money.
So all of this brings us to the future, and to a kind of ticking time bomb that's hidden deep inside the biggest partnership in tech today, the deal between OpenAI and Microsoft. See, buried deep in the legal documents is this little clause called the AGI exclusion. And what it says, basically, is that Microsoft's license to use all of OpenAI's incredible technology just vanishes. It disappears the very moment OpenAI achieves what it calls artificial general intelligence.
Now, think about how this plays out. Step 1. The independent OpenAI board, and only the board, gets to decide when AGI has arrived. Step 2, with that one single declaration, Microsoft's multi-billion-dollar license just evaporates. And Step 3,
OpenAI gets to take back full control of the most powerful invention in human history, totally independent.
Which, of course, brings us to the massive question hanging over OpenAI right now. I mean, as the price tag for building the next generation of AI balloons into the hundreds of billions, can this whole capped profit idea actually survive the pressure?
The company is kind of trapped in a trillion-dollar dilemma. If they keep the profit cap, they risk losing the compute war because they can't raise as much money as rivals like Google. But if they get rid of the cap to raise more cash, they completely betray their founding mission and just become another profit-at-all-costs tech giant, the very thing they were created to prevent.
You know, when you look at it, the strange story of OpenAI really tells us something profound about where we are right now. The real race for AGI, it isn't just about who can write the best code. It's about who gets to write the rules, the corporate charters, and the legal structures that will decide who this powerful new intelligence actually serves.
The founders of OpenAI, they tried to build a cage for a beast that they were terrified they couldn't control. The question that should probably keep all of us up at night is, will that cage actually hold? Or will the sheer pressure of profit and power eventually just break it wide open?